A blonde walks into a salon for a haircut. She's wearing headphones, and when the stylist politely asks her to take them off, the blonde panics and says, "I can't. If I take them off, I'll die." The stylist shrugs and carefully works around the headphones. Halfway through, the blonde dozes off in the chair. The stylist thinks, she won't even notice if I slip them off for a minute to finish the cut properly. So she gently removes the headphones. 3 minutes later, the blonde collapses, dead. Shaken, the stylist picks up the headphones to hear what could possibly be so important. A calm voice repeats over and over, "Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out." A husband walks into Victoria's Secret to purchase some sheer lingerie for his wife. He is shown several possibilities that range from $250 to $500 in price. The more sheer, the higher the price. He opts for the sheerest item, pays the $500, and takes the lingerie home. He presents it to his wife and asks her to go upstairs, put it on, and model it for him. Upstairs, the wife thinks, "I have an idea. It's so sheer that it might as well be nothing. I'll not put it on, do the modeling naked and return it tomorrow, and get a $500 refund for myself." So she appears naked at the top of the stairs and strikes a pose. The husband says, "Good Lord! You'd think for $500 they'd at least iron it." 3 boys find a $20 bill on the ground. They're excitedly deciding how to spend it. The first boy says, "We should buy a couple of comic books," but his friends say once they've read them, there's no sense in keeping them, so it would be a waste. The second boy says, "Let's buy a bunch of candy," but his friends say that's too much in one go and they'll have upset stomachs. The third one says, "Let's buy a tampon. According to the commercials with it, you can go camping, horseback riding, biking." A deaf accountant that worked for the mob was at home one night reading a book. 2 big guys, accompanied by a sign language interpreter, kicked in his front door. At gunpoint, the big guys got the interpreter to ask the deaf accountant, "Where's the $1 million that went missing today?" The accountant signs back, "I don't know what you're talking about." They get the interpreter to ask again, "Where's the money? We know it was you." Once again, the frightened accountant signs, "I never took any money." The mob guys get the interpreter to ask again, "Where's the money? If you don't tell us, we'll blow your brains out." This time, the deaf man signs, Okay, it's under the floorboards, under my bed. Please don't kill me." The interpreter turns to the mobsters and tells them, "He said, go f*** yourselves." In prison, a fellow inmate struck up a conversation with a priest who had just arrived. Inmate, "So, what landed you in here?" Priest, lowering his voice, "Well, I had an affair and the nun ended up pregnant." Inmate, "Man, why didn't you just use protection?" Priest, "Some religious scholars say it's not exactly permissible." A little boy's first day in school, and a teacher was going to play a guessing game. She passed out different items to each of the students and proceeded to ask each student what item they received. When it was the new boy, Jimmy's turn, the teacher gave him a candy kiss and asked him, "Do you know what this is?" The boy replied, "No." The teacher said, "Go ahead and open it up and taste it." He does so, and the teacher asked him, "Now do you know what it is?" Little Jimmy said, "No." So the teacher said, "I'll give you a hint. It's something your daddy wants from your mommy every morning before he goes to work." Suddenly, a little girl in the back of the class jumps up and screams, "Jimmy, spit it out. It's a piece of Tom surprised Helen with a weekend getaway. She wanted charm, romance, maybe a hot tub. He booked a rustic cabin that looked like it survived 3 divorces and a bear attack. They arrived to find a shed pretending to be a house. The welcome mat said, "No refunds." There was a raccoon on the porch wearing Tom's sock like a headband. Inside, it was decorated in an early American yard sale. The fireplace was just a picture of fire taped to a space heater. The bed had 2 couch cushions and a prayer. And the bathroom? Oh, just nature, with attitude. Tom lit a scented candle labeled Midnight Taco and said, "Romance achieved." Helen opened a window to let out the disappointment. That night they fell asleep to the soothing sounds of dripping faucet, wind through a hole in the roof, and a raccoon dragging away their cooler. At 3 a.m., Tom whispered, "Did you hear that?" Helen said, "Yes." That was the sound of my standards dying. By morning, their romantic weekend included 2 raccoon heists, 1 air mattress deflation, and a shared towel that smelled like commitment issues. They drove home in silence. Tom turned to Helen and said, "Next time I'll just book a spa." Helen replied, "Next time I'm going alone." Little Jenny, just 7 years old, came home from school after her very first family planning lesson. Curious, her mom asked, "So how did it go?" Jenny sighed dramatically and said, "I was so embarrassed, Mom." "Why, sweetheart?" her mom asked gently. Jenny replied, "Well, Joanne said babies come from storks. Lily said you can get them from the orphanage. Jack swears they come from hospitals, and I had to tell them the truth, that we were so broke, you and Dad had to make me yourselves." A wife returns home from a work retreat. After unpacking, she heads to the laundry room, only to find a pair of panties on the floor that definitely aren't hers. Furious, she storms up to her husband. "Care to explain this?" she demands. The husband shrugs. "I have no idea. I don't do the laundry. The maid does." The wife exhales, calming down. "Oh, so maybe they're the maids. She could have been doing her own laundry here." "Nah," the husband says casually. "She doesn't even wear pants." Tom and Mike were 2 airplane mechanics working at a busy city airport. One rainy day, flights were grounded and they were stuck in the hangar with nothing to do. Tom sighed. "Wish we had something to sip on." Mike grinned and joked, "Well, I heard a rumor you can get a little kick from jet fuel. Should we try it?" Of course, they didn't really drink jet fuel, but they both laughed at the idea, told a few more silly jokes, and called it a night. The next morning, Tom got a call from Mike. Mike asked, "How are you feeling today?" Tom replied, "Great. Best I've felt after a late shift." Mike chuckled, "Same here. But hey, just a warning." Tom, "What's that?" Mike, "If you feel the urge to let one rip, be careful. I just landed in another country." At 85, Margaret decided to splurge and book herself a night at a posh downtown hotel. Marble floors, gold elevators, classical music in the lobby. The works. The next morning, she went to check out. The young receptionist smiled and slid a bill across the counter. $495. Margaret squinted. "Excuse me? Almost $500? I didn't even touch the minibar." "That's our rate, ma'am," the receptionist chirped. "It includes access to all premium services." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Our rooftop spa, yoga classes, and private cinema," the clerk listed proudly. "I didn't use any of those," she huffed. "Still," he said, "they were available to you." Now annoyed, she asked for the manager. Enter Mr. Fancy Suit and shiny shoes. "Good morning. How can I assist?" Margaret pointed at the bill. "This is outrageous. I didn't eat your overpriced breakfast, didn't go to your spa, and sure as heck didn't watch a movie." The manager nodded politely. "Understandable." But all those amenities were available to you. Margaret stared at him for a beat, then reached into her handbag, pulled out her checkbook, and scribbled something. She handed the check to him with a sweet smile. He glanced down and blinked. "Ma'am, this is a check for $95. "That's right," she said. "But the bill was $495. "Oh, I know," Margaret said with a grin. "I'm charging you $400 for spending the night with me." His eyes went wide. "But I didn't." "Well," she winked, "I was here. And I was available to you." A woman owned 2 female parrots who constantly squawked, "We're prostitutes. Want to have a little fun?" Distressed, she told her preacher about it. The preacher smiled and said, "I have 2 male parrots who only read the Bible and pray. Maybe they can help reform your parrots." So they brought the 4 parrots together. The female parrots immediately shouted, "We're prostitutes. Want to have a little fun?" One male parrot slowly turned to the other and whispered, "Put the Bibles away. Our prayers have finally been answered." A man is buying mangoes at a street stall when he overhears an old woman calling out to her granddaughter, "Degree! Come here, Degree." Surprised by the unusual name, he walks up to the old lady and asks, "Ma'am, why do you call your granddaughter Degree?" The old woman bursts into laughter and replies, "Because I sent her mother to university for an education, and this is what she brought home." My wife found out that our dog, a Scoopy, could hardly hear, so she took it to the veterinarian. The vet found that the problem was hair in the dog's ears. He cleaned both ears, and the dog could then hear fine. The vet then proceeded to tell Sarah that if she wanted to keep this from recurring, she should go to the drugstore and get some Nair hair remover and rub it in the dog's ears once a month. Sarah went to the store and picked up some Nair hair remover. At the register, the pharmacist told her, "If you're going to use this under your arms, don't use deodorant for a few days." Sahara said, "I'm not using it under my arms." The pharmacist said, "If you're using it on your legs, don't use body lotion for a couple of days." Sarah replied, "I'm not using it on my legs either. If you must know, I'm using it on my Scoopy." The pharmacist said, "Well, stay off your bicycle for at least a week." I went to a chemist store and asked to talk to a male pharmacist. The woman I spoke to said she was the only pharmacist, and since she and her sister owned the store, there were no male employees. She asked if she could help me. I said that I really would have preferred to speak with a male pharmacist. She assured me that she was completely professional, and whatever it was that I needed to discuss, I could be confident that she would treat me with a high level of professionalism. I reluctantly agreed and began by saying, "As a shy man, this is tough for me to discuss, but here goes. I get erections every day that last more than 4 hours. This condition causes me a lot of problems and severe embarrassment. I was wondering what you could give me for it." The pharmacist said, "Just a minute. I'll talk to my sister." When she returned, she said, "We discussed it at length, and this is the absolute best we can do. 1/3 ownership in the store, a company car, a furnished house, a king-size bed, and £3,000 a month as living expenses." A man decides it's time for a night of romance. So before his wife gets home, he puts on the nice silky sheets, lights a bunch of candles, and puts on his robe. When she comes home, he leads her into the bedroom, and they start going at it. All of the sudden, little Timmy walks in and screams, "Oh my God," before running out. The husband says, "Well, I guess I better go have the talk with him." So he gets his robe on and goes looking for Timmy. He can't find him anywhere, not his room, living room, kitchen, anywhere. So he goes into Grandma's room to see if she'd seen him, and when he opens the door, he sees little Timmy has Grandma bent over the bed, polka dot moo-moo over her head, and he's just giving her the business. The dad screams, "Timmy, what the f—" Timmy turns around and says, "It's not so funny when it's your mom, is it?" A chicken farmer and his son went out to gather eggs one morning. They went in the hen house but couldn't find a single egg. As they left the hen house, they saw several sets of footprints leading away from the roost. Following them up and over a hill, they found an abandoned campsite with a still, smoldering fire. Next to the fire was an old pot and a worn ladle. Beside the pot lay a heaping pile of broken eggshells. The father knelt down next to the pot and dipped in the ladle and pulled it out to examine its contents. It was full of water, swirling with white silky strands. Seeing this, the farmer's face contorted with rage. "What is it, P?" the boy asked anxiously. The farmer took a long sigh, then with a hard voice said, "Boy, best fetch me my rifle, those damn poachers are back." I called my parents the other day, just a regular check-in. But instead of my mom picking up, I got this wild voicemail. "Hello, you've reached the Grandparents Command Center. We're either not home or pretending not to be. Please listen carefully. Our patience has limits." The message continued. "If you're one of our children and need something, press 1 to be sorted by birth order. Need babysitting? Press 2. Want to borrow the car? Press 3. Laundry or ironing? Press 4. Dropping off the grandkids overnight? Press 5. School pickups? Press 6. Sunday dinner or food delivery? Press 7. Planning to eat here? Press 8. Need money? Press 9. Then it said, "But if you're calling to invite us out to dinner, a movie, or anywhere fun, please stay on the line. We are very available." Beep. Then my mom's voice whispered sweetly, "Just kidding, I kinda. Leave a message." It's been 3 days. I still haven't left a message. I'm trying to think of something that doesn't land me in options 1 through 9. A week earlier, my wife decided we had to adopt a kitten. Cute, tiny, playful. No problem, at first. But one morning, I was in the shower when she yelled from the kitchen, "Honey, the garbage disposal is dead again. Can you reset it?" I yelled back, "You know where the button is." "I know, but I'm scared. What if it turns on and pulls me in?" Really? A garbage disposal vacuuming her in like a black hole? But fine. I got out, dripping wet, naked, grumpy. I marched to the kitchen, muttering, and crouched under the sink to press the button, hoping my dramatic nudity would make a statement. That's when disaster struck. Turns out the kitten had wandered in, and as I crouched there, fully exposed, she spotted, well, let's call them dangling targets. With the speed of a jungle predator and the curiosity of a toddler, she pounced. Needle claws, sensitive flesh, pain, instinct took over. I shot up straight like a rocket. Unfortunately, into the hard underside of the sink. Blackout. When I came to, I was on the kitchen floor, naked, dazed, and surrounded by paramedics trying not to laugh out loud. My wife, of course, had filled them in completely. Days later, when I finally returned to work, everyone wanted to know how I hit my head. I just shook my head and said, "Don't ask. It still hurts." One colleague smirked and said, "Cat got your tongue?" "No, Karen. The cat got something else entirely." A senior citizen said to his 80-year-old buddy, "So I hear you're getting married." "Yep. Do I know her?" "Nope. This woman, is she good-looking?" "Not really." "Is she a good cook?" "Nah, she can't cook too well." "Does she have lots of money?" "Nope. Poor as a church mouse." "Well then, is she good in bed?" "I don't know." "Why in the world do you want to marry her then?" "Because she can still drive." With a very seductive voice, the woman asked her husband, "Have you ever seen $20 all crumpled up?" The woman asked her husband. "No," replied her husband. She gave him a lingering, sensuous smile and slowly unbuttoned the top 4 buttons of her blouse. She slowly reached down into the cleavage created by a soft, silky push-up bra and pulled out a crumpled $20 note. He took the crumpled $20 note from her and smiled approvingly. "Have you ever seen $50 all crumpled up, she then asked her husband. No, I haven't," he told her with a slightly anxious tone in his voice. She gave him another little smile, pulled up her skirt, and seductively retrieved a crumpled $50 note. He took the crumpled $50 note and started breathing a little quicker with anticipation. "Now," she said, "have you ever seen $50,000 all crumpled up?" "No way," he exclaimed while becoming even more breathless. "Well, go look in the garage," she replied. At my vasectomy consultation, the doctor said, "Now this is a big, beautiful man." Then he pulled his pants back up and told me to get undressed. Rick had been feeling a little guilty, so he decided to stop by the church and make a confession. "Forgive me, Father," he said. "I took some lumber from a construction site." The priest raised an eyebrow and asked, "And what exactly did you do with the wood, my son?" "Well," Rick explained, "my son's wheelchair ramp was falling apart, so I rebuilt it." The priest nodded. "That was kind of you." Rick continued, "I had some wood left over, so I built a doghouse for our pup. He's been freezing at night." "That's still a generous use," the priest replied. Rick hesitated. "There was still more wood left, so I made a garage for my car." "A garage? That's ambitious," the priest said, clearly a bit surprised. Rick added, "And then I used the rest to build a second floor onto our house. My wife always wanted one." Now the priest looked overwhelmed. "Son, that's a bit much. You're going to need to do a novena for penance. Do you know how to make one?" Rick grinned. "Not yet, Father. But if you've got the blueprints, I've still got some wood."